Hello there, everybody. This is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and this is going to be my first vloggy update for my March wrap-up and April TBR. I cannot believe this, that we're already in March, and I'm already planning my April TBR. Crazy. So I had my iPad all set up to show you guys thumbnails like I normally do, and then it died. And my phone's going to die soon, and then soon it'll be too sunny on the deck. So I'm just gonna film anyways. Sorry, there won't be any thumbnails for this first update. But in future updates, I usually do have thumbnails, and I also have, in the description down below, I have timestamps. So you can skip to books. I know these don't have any editing, so feel free to skip. I always include those timestamps in the description. So, okay, first of all, I do actually have the book for this one, so that's useful. God's Will, Found God's Will by John MacArthur. This is my first book that I've ever read by John MacArthur, and a buddy in my community group gave this to me to read. She lent it to me after I was telling her, yeah, I'm kind of stressed because I don't know God's will for my life right now. And so this was really helpful. I mean, I think I got a lot of inspiration out of this, even though I think sometimes he can come off a bit strong, I would say. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just the thing with Christian artists. They're probably speaking to a specific audience, and so that's why they're coming off strong. But in this case, finding God's will involves the first 5 steps, which is, being in God's word, being saved. Very important to be saved. What are some of the other ones? I can't remember them all, but there's 5 steps that are like really basic. And then the next one is like, do what you want, because if you are doing these first 5 steps, it means you understand God's will for your life, and what you're doing is his will. And God can use a person who's moving, even if it's in the wrong direction, more easily than he can move someone who's standing still, which is a concept I've heard before from pastors, and I actually think is accurate. God used Jonah mightily, even though he ran away from him first. God still used him to save Nineveh. So if you're just standing still, though, you just kind of fall flat on your face when God tries to move you. But if you're already moving, God can direct you, especially if you're trying to move in the right direction. It's very easy for God to close a door and open up the right one for you. He compares it to like a mirror maze where you just keep running into mirrors until finally you find the right way out. That's kind of how it goes sometimes. And some of the examples he used, I just finished it today, so of course the ending is what I have in mind. But some of them, it was like, basically go wherever you feel called. And that for me is always really a hard one because I can't really travel very easily with my health. So I am staying, but God has brought people to me that, I can minister to. So pretty cool that even somebody who's somewhat homebound, I pretty much leave the house once or twice a week. Somebody like that can be used by God even. So I wish that I could pick up and go somewhere, but that's just not, I think, what God has for us, unless he decides he wants to miraculously completely heal me, which I'm completely open to, Lord. Please heal me by medicine or by miracle, as I always say. But there was other great stuff in here too that wasn't, that like for all throughout, there was great thoughts in here. So when will Christians realize that they have everything? Peter wrote, God's divine power has granted to us everything pertaining to life and godliness. You do not lack anything. But so many emaciated Christians go around and say, well, I just don't have the power to do this or that. The Apostle Paul said to the Colossians, in him you have been made complete. Complete! What are you looking for? What are you asking for? Jesus told you what to ask for, wisdom. So great. The power is all there. So that was a really cool thought. We don't have to ask for anything except wisdom, so pretty cool. And then there was another one here I wanted to share. The way of studying the Bible. So he had this thought of studying the Bible by just reading a part of the Bible over, like a book of the Bible over and over and over again until like he really understands it, you know, like 30 times. You don't have to read all this supplementary material and stuff. Just read the Bible, literally. And the Bible does interpret itself. I have noticed that, like, read the Bible and then read commentaries. But I actually really enjoy commentaries too. So I don't think it's necessary to forego all of the commentary. And I have a study Bible that is just wonderful for that. But I am attempting what he talked about in here, which I'm going to only read the book 10 times though, because I'm a very, very slow reader. And he's a very fast reader, clearly. He said he could read all of like 6 chapters of a book in the Bible in 20 minutes. And I'm like, no, it takes me like 20 minutes to read 1 chapter, you know? So yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to take it slower and maybe read. So right now I'm going through Judges and I'm reading it 4 times over. I'm currently 10 times over. I'm currently in my fourth read of Judges thanks to this book. So it's kind of fun. I'm definitely getting to know Judges better. I'm going to be able to talk and understand and think about Judges much more easily now. So there was that. There were so many other cool things in here. Talks about submission. Submission was one of the steps. You have to be able to submit. Christians are generally not revolutionaries. We generally follow the law, you know. Yeah, I think that's mainly what I wanted to share from this, and I'm really glad that I read it and I really enjoyed it. Okay, now here's the real test. Try and remember everything that I read without a list. I always have a script ready. So the next thing, another thing that I finished, not really the next thing, just another thing, was Cytonic by Brandon Sanderson. So this is book 3 in this Skyward trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, and oh my gosh, this one was so good. It was so much better than book 2. And I did enjoy book 2 on reread better than I enjoyed it the first time. The first time I read it, I was really disappointed. And then the second time through, I was like, okay, it's not terrible. Like on reread, I liked it better. The third book, I was obsessed with the beginning. It was so fun. And then the rest of it, I was like, I really like this. I wouldn't say I was obsessed with the whole thing, but like 4 stars. It was really, really fun. The series is following Spencer, whose father was a starfighter pilot, and they live on this planet in book 1 called Detritus, which it has like this field of debris floating around it, and there's just so much mystery in the first book. The first book is one of my favorite books that I've read by Brandon Sanderson. So good, and book 2, that's why I think book 2 was such a disappointment. But book 3 brought it right back up. I enjoyed the novellas. Those were all like at least 3 stars or more. And I'm well on my way. I have one last book in the Skyward. Did I say trilogy? It's a series. It's a 4-book series. It's a quartet. So super excited to continue with the last book in the series. Do I have any real like thoughts about it? It was my very close to bedtime read, so I wasn't thinking at that time. I was just like trying to relax, you know. And sometimes that's like the best way for me to enjoy a book, is when I'm not overthinking it and I'm not in a hurry. I'm just like, this is my bedtime read for however long it takes me. And this one indeed took me at least a month and a half to read. So yeah, and that I was fine with that. So I think that's the best way for me to read, is not try to hurry it, because I do have a very slow kind of cobbled together reading process. But so this one, we get a lot of answers. I feel like book 2, there was like one big answer that we got. Book 3, there's one really big answer in book 3 at least. Let's see what else. Yeah, I would just say it's worth it. For me, it's worth it to keep going. I've heard other people say that book 3 feels a lot like book 2, and in one sense, I understand that. But it was also really different, and I enjoyed the differences a lot. We're exploring a whole new area of space. We'll put it that way. Yeah, super, super fun. Okay, we're gonna keep going. And hopefully my phone won't die in the middle of a book. So maybe I'll just do one more book for now. So the next thing that I finished was The Black Tulip by Alexandre Dumas. Alexandre. I don't know how to say that. I don't know any French. So this is a French novella by the author of The Count of Monte Cristo, which, if it was shorter, I might have actually enjoyed The Count of Monte Cristo, but it was way too long. So this one I actually enjoyed because it was really short. And let me just say, do the French know how to write about love or what? Oh my gosh. There's a romance in this one. And I loved it. The love writing. It was great. I did enjoy that. But overall, I would say it's like a 3.5 star. The beginning was really rough for me. I did not care. Like, it's trying to set the historical setting. It involves, was it William of Orange, I think? And I just kind of, sometimes if a book is just too much explanation, too much detail, I just kind of skim over that and try to get to where the story begins, you know? Which I didn't used to do. I used to think that's a terrible thing to do. I want to find out everything that the author is trying to tell me, and it's important, and why would you... Now I'm just like, I'm going to get out of this what I'm interested in getting out of it. I don't really care about the political situation. So that's why I give it 3.5 stars, because the beginning has quite a lot of historical explanation, which Tiffany, I just heard her thoughts. She actually liked the historical stuff better than the rest. So, you know, to each their own. I'm so glad that she enjoyed that. And I'm really glad for me that I enjoyed the romance. She didn't enjoy the romance. So yeah, it was really fun. And so what happens is there is a man who is implicated by owning some letters of his relatives who were involved politically. This man, not involved politically. He's just interested in tulips. He's a tulip grower. There was a tulip phase. This was not set in France. Where was it set? Somewhere, one of the Norwegian countries, I think. Holland? Was it set in Holland? I don't know. Anyways, so there's a tulip craze, and this man is all interested in growing tulips, and he's been working for a really long time on growing a black tulip. Because that's like the next goal in horticulture. And right as he's discovered and created the bulbs that will grow into these black tulips, he's arrested and thrown in prison. And kind of that's where the story begins, if you will. So I won't spoil anything that happens after that. That's all within like the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 chapters. Of course, it's a very short novel, so hopefully that's not too spoilery, but that's kind of the setup. So yeah. This was for Tiffany's Patreon, and I'm so glad it ended up winning. It was not the one that I voted for. Hey guys, it's now Sunday, March 16th. It's 12:26 in the afternoon. We just got back from church and then went for a walk. And I need to film an announcement video for a very exciting readathon. So I'm going to do my makeup, and we're going to wrap up some more books from this one. So I do have the books set up to show you the covers today, but we got cut off last time when I was filming, so I'm going to finish up by just saying I found the Black Tulip really refreshing because it didn't do the normal classic thing where the women are really boring and quiet and like just taking what was viewed as the women's sphere at the time. Instead, we have a woman who is really taking charge and traveling, talking to people in high places, not asking permission to do that. I'm like, oh, there it is. I was gonna say I cannot find my makeup. And honestly, I found it really refreshing too, as well, that she wasn't, even though I personally like the kind of virtuous maiden thing, because I think that's really underrated in today's world. She was kind of a player in this one, which was a little bit like, oh, but hey, it's a French novel. Why am I surprised? I feel like usually the guys take that role in classics, and so I felt like she really kind of flipped the traditional view of females. She was not a boring character, and I think I mentioned how much I loved the writing already. The writing was really gorgeous, so I have a quote here. So it's where there's trouble in the romantic relationship, and the man says to the woman, well, you know, everything changes in the realm of nature. The flowers of spring are succeeded by other flowers, and the bees, which so tenderly caressed the violets and the wallflowers, will flutter with just as much love about the honeysuckles, the rose, the jessamine, and the carnation. What does all this mean? The woman asked the man. You have abandoned me to seek your pleasure elsewhere, he says. You have done well, and I will not complain. What claim have I to your fidelity? I just thought that was really gorgeous, and that just kind of gives you a hint about the kind of writing that you're in store for with this. So I enjoyed it fully, and I think I would rate it probably like 3.5 stars, somewhere around there. And really, I'm glad we read this for Tiffany's Patreon. So that was The Black Tulip. Let's talk about Dawnshard by Brandon Sanderson. I'm not going to hold it up because I'm going to try and finish my makeup while we're talking. So this is a novella. I feel like I already explained this to you, so if I did, I might have to cut this out. But this novella follows a character that we meet in the interludes of the Stormlight Archives. So this takes place after Oathbringer in the Stormlight Archives. And he's done this several times with novellas, where he'll take a character who's from the interludes and then give them their own kind of novella. And I wonder a bit if they might be important in like the second set of Stormlight books. Because we're at the end, you know, in book 5 already. So I haven't actually read the ending yet, but I'm like, what is book 2? What is the second arc of the Stormlight Archives gonna be about? I really don't know. Maybe I'll do some lipstick today. Anyways, this was really fun because the character is a trader, so she knows other languages. She travels a lot. She, in this case, is traveling on a mission from a Radiant. I won't spoil anything, but basically she's exploring this mysterious island that all the other explorers have not come back from. And so there's this big mystery, like, what is this island? Like, what's here? Why do people always disappear when they go to this island? And so she goes to the island, and she's entrusted with that because she has traveled so much. And so there is a mystery that's explored and resolved, and that was really interesting. We also explore a different character that we do know from the Stormlight Archives who has some powers that are developing, and that was really interesting because it was, I think, the first same-sex bond. Not that Spren really have a sex, but he has a Spren bond with a male, a male Spren, and usually it's like male radiant female Spren or female radiant male Spren. That seems to be the case. But this was a same-sex bond, so I was like, oh, so that can happen too. Here it is. So yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot. Like, this is reminding me what it's like to read Brandon Sanderson for the first time. I think sometimes if we're just reading rereads mostly, it can be a little bit wearing because we forget what it's like to read him for the first time. At least it is for me. But I love rereading him. But I also really love reading him for the first time. So that's what I thought about that. And it was really good. It's maybe my favorite novella, honestly, in the Stormlight Archives so far. I mean, there's not been a whole bunch, but there was Lift, and then there's a bunch of like there's like short stories. I feel like, anyway, I really enjoyed this novella. It's definitely my favorite too. Out of the Cytonic novellas, this was better than all of them. So maybe just one of my favorite Sanderson novellas, period. So really enjoyed it. Highly recommend if you're... I had never read it before because I knew that it was probably important, but I just wasn't prioritizing it. And if that is you, prioritize it. It's really good. It's totally worth reading. Okay. I think that good for the lipstick. Okay, moving on. The Bullet Swallower by Elizabeth Gonzales James. This was a Western with some speculative vibes, some fantasy elements, kind of almost Catholic-y elements, which was interesting. So obviously I didn't like, I don't know, the speculative elements didn't really work for me. A lot of things didn't really work for me about this, unfortunately. So what it is it's set mostly in Texas, and it kind of explores the horrible things that the Texas Rangers did to the Mexican people. And we're following a Mexican man who is an anti-hero, and that stresses me out. I don't really like anti-heroes. I can't say that as like a blanket statement. There might have been anti-heroes that I've enjoyed in the past, but this anti-hero I did not enjoy. So yeah, I read this because, and I finished it. I actually finished it. I didn't DNF it because Victoria really enjoyed it. And that was why I picked it up partially. But I also picked it up because I'm always kind of like, I want to read something really good that's set in like a Mexican setting. I know this actually isn't Mexico. It's actually Texas. But I'm always kind of like, I would love to read a really good Mexican book. If you guys have recommendations, I actually wrote a Mexican fantasy. Actually, I think I mostly outlined the Mexican fantasy. I'm not sure I actually finished it, but I wrote some of it. And it was like very kind of Aztec era. So I really enjoy Mexican history. I think it's really interesting. I need to read a lot more about it though, because I don't really know that much, other than the Aztecs, which I write a lot about. So I picked it up partly for that reason. I've read some things like Mexican Gothic I've read. And so I've read a couple sort of Mexican vibes books, Mexican set books. That one, I was interested in that one because it's set in Mexico City, which fascinates me. I really wish I could visit Mexico City. But it's not going to work out, I don't think, unfortunately. But I hear it's like really foodie culture, like really, really good food. That's why I want to go. But, yeah, so I picked it up for that reason. But basically it's a revenge quest, and it's like very questionable motives of the anti-hero, and pretty depressing all the way through. And you can't even like get behind him because he's not a good guy. But you kind of understand why he has done some of the things that he's done as you kind of learn about his history. So he's not like full on anti-hero, like there's no good reason for what he's doing. But at the same time, it's not like a legitimate revenge quest, in my opinion. And the way he went about it too, it was just horrible. It was just horrible the whole time. So it was a very stressful read. But hopefully I'll find a different one that works better for me at some point. But I need to go back and watch Victoria's review of it because I want to hear all of her thoughts. And nobody's talking about this for some reason. So let's talk about Island Magic by Elizabeth Goudge, which I don't get excited, haven't read. I was really excited to read this for Emma's book club. However, I was excited because I thought that there was an ebook that I could use to have it like read to me to help me along with it. But no, it's only a one that you can read on a device with backlight. You can't read it on like a regular Kindle. And so I can't have my iPad read it to me while I actually read it on my Kindle Paperwhite. So I was really excited because I thought that had finally changed. I've always wanted to read Elizabeth Goudge, but except for her kids book, which is pretty short and easy reading. I've never felt capable of actually finishing one of her adult books. So I was really excited to try it this month, and it unfortunately is not going to work out. So very, very disappointing there. But I wanted to mention it because it was in my TBR, and I really wanted to read it. I was excited about it. Another DNF I DNF'd a lot this month, Freddy the Pilot by Walter R. Brooks. So I picked this one up because Kate Howe recommended it, and I can see why. Like, I think her sons must be obsessed, and it seems really cozy. I DNF'd it though because I think I need the physical book. Like, I need pictures. I need to actually read it with my eyes. Listening on audio wasn't working for me. I think it was too... how to describe it? It's like talking animals, which is fine. It's not my favorite though. So, yeah. So that's. I don't have a lot to say about it, unfortunately, because I DNF'd it at like 28% in or something. And I just couldn't follow it, honestly. I couldn't follow it on audio. So, but the cover looks so fun. I really want to read it physically and see if there's some pictures. I'm really into illustrations lately. Another DNF, Unseelie by Ivelisse Housman. This one I got really far into. I was like 50% in, and honestly, it wasn't bad. This is a young adult fantasy exploring, as you would guess by the cover, the Seelie court. Two sisters, one of whom is a changeling, and it was really interesting because in the beginning, there's like a theory that I had never heard of, that actually kids who were thought of as changelings in the past were probably kids who were on the spectrum. We just didn't have a better way to explain it then, other than the fairies took my baby and left this one instead. But some of the descriptions of the behavior of the changelings suggest that they were actually just kids who were on the spectrum. Excuse me. So that was really interesting, a theory that I never heard. And so in this family, the family accepts the changeling, but they also have their real daughter. So I don't think that was explored yet, how that happened exactly. But most of the town is not on board with this, like, because they don't trust the Seelie court. They don't trust the changelings. However, there's a lot of other magic that's happening. And so I think I wanted to like really enjoy it on audio, but again, I think it would be a better one to at least begin with physically to sort of get into the world and follow. But honestly, I was still enjoying it on audio. What really drew me up was how much time we were spending on the romance. I just am not really into teen romance, I guess, anymore, unless it's something I read when I was a kid, then I'm really nostalgic about it. But whenever I read a teen romance now, I'm kind of like, okay, can we move on? Not always, though, because I guess the one that I'm currently reading, the Crimson Moth series, is technically no, I think it's for teens. So that one I'm enjoying, but not necessarily all of the teen romance parts. I think partly because I'm reading it physically too, I can really see the character development and the setting development really well. Whereas this one, because I was listening to it, I wasn't following it as well. But I honestly really enjoyed the setting of this one, and it wasn't bad at all. That's why I got 50% in. But I just was like, it's just too much. It's like a hate to love kind of scenario. I didn't even really explain it. There's the sisters, and they are no longer living with their family, and that it gets explored why they ran away from their family, the changeling, and then the baby that this changeling was made to imitate. They run away from their family together, and they end up trying to like pull a heist together, but they meet another crew who's trying to pull a heist in the same location, and they kind of get hooked up with this other team, and that's where we meet the boy. And it's a very hate to love thing. She's just so rude, and I feel like this is the case with a lot of YA romances. Like, the girls are just so rude. It's like they're trying to make up for Twilight's Edward being so rude to Bella that they're like, no, the girl's going to be the really rude one in this book. It's like a reaction. That's what it reads like to me. So I don't actually have any contouring makeup, so I just use like a little bit of eyeshadow to kind of, that's a little too much. And I never used to do any contouring at all, but I kind of just decided I want to try it. I want to get better at it, so I'm going to try. It doesn't really work on this side though, because I have a weird bump in my nose, so I have to kind of, but anyway, I'm trying to sculpt my face, which is kind of fun because I've been drawing a lot of portraits. So I'm seeing how they do makeup in those for their portraits, and also just their shape, their face shape is really interesting. I should show you, I should do another update on my drawing journal at some point. Maybe I'll do that after this. Okay, that looks pretty okay, I think. Let's take a look. I haven't had glasses on, so I can't really check. Oh, that looks fine. All right, cool. A little longer, and then we'll move on to actually filming my announcement. Okay, the last thing that I finished so far, and thank goodness I actually finished it and loved it, so it's not a totally downer of an update. A Few Good Men by Aaron Sorkin. Wow. So if you were ever wondering about the movie and you're like, I wonder if it's just a better movie than it was play. If the lines weren't taken wholesale from the play, a lot of them are just like super similar, and some lines are taken wholesale from the play. So the movie is really, really good, and I would say maybe a little bit better. However, the original play is extremely, extremely good. And I was kind of kicking myself for not marking all of the famous lines in it so that I could read them to you. But I've just seen the movie so many times. It's like tied. There's like a three-way tie for my favorite movies. So my favorite movies are A Few Good Men, The Sound of Music, and The Emperor's New Groove. And I've seen it so many times that the lines, I was like, yeah, of course, and this great line. And then I would just keep going because I've already heard that line so many times delivered by these brilliant actors. If you've never seen A Few Good Men, it's a very adult movie. I have to say it's adult, but it's mainly because of one character that it's super adult. There's this really famous Marine character named Colonel Jessup, who is the commanding, would you call him an officer? I don't know. At Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And he has like this very rigid idea of what being a leader at Guantanamo Bay looks like and what a recruit should look like and how to run the ship, essentially. And for one recruit, he cannot fit into that mold. And so he's writing letters, like multiple letters every month to everybody but Santa Claus. That's one of the lines. He wrote to everybody but Santa Claus trying to get moved off the base. And so he ends up dead. And so the big question, you know what happened as you're reading the play. Like you pretty much, but there are things that are revealed, so I won't spoil anything. But how did Santiago, who is the Marine, how did he end up dying? And it's so good. It's like a morality play, but it's really funny. There's so many zingers. It's just really, really fabulous. I definitely want to read. There's like another play in here that what he wrote, Aaron Sorkin wrote, so I'm definitely going to check that out. It's called The Farnsworth Invention. And maybe I'm a play person. Honestly, they're short, they're punchy. There's often an adaptation that I can watch with Kevin. Maybe I'm a play person and I never knew it. So yeah, this was so good. Highly, highly recommend it. If you haven't seen the movie or read the play before, definitely read it. It's definitely worth checking out. Okay, so let's read some. I didn't mark up all my favorite lines but one of my favorites, and everybody knows this exchange, is You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. So good. So that's one of the best ones. And there's like a lot, like I said, it's Colonel Jessup is the bad boy in this. He's the one who they had to change a bunch of the adult. So it's not like adult content in the sense of like sex or violence or drugs. It's the language, the language that Colonel Jessup uses. And so the made-for-TV versions of A Few Good Men are really funny because they changed the language to be more TV-friendly, but we know what the original is because we own the original. Oh, it's so funny. It's just so good. Okay. I won't spoil anything. But yeah, so what's really interesting is we have several lawyers in the Navy who are defending 2 Marines who have been charged with the death of the Marine who died. They've been charged with his death, and you learn more about that. So they have a team of 3 lawyers. One of the lawyers 100% on their side. One of the lawyers completely against them, but he still does his job, And then the middle lawyer, who is the kind of star of this, such a smart mouth. He's got a Harvard mouth, as Colonel Jessup says. He is just trying to win for them. But he discovers morality over the course of the play too. He's not completely jaded by the end of the play. So it's like the awakening of one of the lawyers is kind of the moral development. But there's also like a moral statement made about the behavior of the Marines and about the behavior of Colonel Jessup, the leader at Guantanamo Bay. Oh, it's so good. Highly recommend. This is definitely my favorite thing that I've read so far this month. It'll probably be my favorite thing that I read this month. So punchy. So great. Highly recommended. Yeah. That's it. Okay. I'm going to go film my announcement video. I guess I won't be filming on my camera today. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon. Hello there. It is now March 22nd. It's a Saturday. It is 5:24 in the evening, and I have several books to wrap up and tell you guys about. So let's jump into it. I might have spoken too soon in saying that my favorite of the month would be A Few Good Men, even though it was so good. Kevin and I actually just had a discussion about it today as we were returning it to the library. I read him all of my notes on it because he loves that movie as much as I do. However, I finished a memoir last night called Troubled by Rob Henderson. This is a book by a man who grew up in foster care and had a really rough time, didn't do well in school, had a drinking problem, really went through some tough stuff, ended up realizing that he was on a crash course literally in his life and decided to join the military. And so I'm going to set this down while I do my nail polish. And he got in the military and his problems were continuing. And finally, he ended up getting checked out, realizing he had to deal with his feelings and depression. Otherwise, he was going to drink his way out of existence. So he was able to come to that realization, and he's one of the very few foster kids who've been through those kind of traumatic upbringings who came out of it okay. He has a lot of friends who were in similarly unstable situations, foster cares, parents were split up. He grew up not too far from where I live, actually, which is interesting. And he in Red Bluff, if you're curious. Literally, my aunt lives in Red Bluff. We go there. But yeah, Red Bluff has a crime rate just below Oakland, and Oakland is a very high crime rate. And much higher. It's like double the national average of poverty, in fact, in Red Bluff. So rough place to grow up, but he escaped. And he always says this, I was one of the lucky ones, so I don't need anybody's pity or anything because I survived. And he ends up going to Yale on the GI Bill. So amazing story. I first heard of him because there was this term that he coined called luxury beliefs, which he sort of learned about because he grew up in a very, very working class, poor area, as mentioned, foster kid, etc., had all these problems. Most of his friends were of the same mold. And when he got to Yale, it's like he joined, it's a different social class is really what it is. Basically, there was a bunch of people who'd been millionaires since they were infants, and he noticed some of the differences between their beliefs and the lower class beliefs. And he calls a lot of their beliefs, for example, defund the police, marriage is an outdated institution. What were some other ones? He mentions like a lot of things. Things that I have the exact quote actually of what he calls luxury beliefs. Ideas or opinions that confer status on the upper class at very little cost, while often inflicting costs on the lower classes. And the one that he's most passionate about is the marriage one, because he was like, I would have done anything to have two stable parents helping me. And actually, there are a lot of stats on this that two-parent households are much better for kids. Those kids do a lot better in school. They're like kids who have unstable upbringings, one-parent household, they have like higher rates of anxiety and depression, and they don't do as well at school, and they just have all these problems, like social problems, and usually they don't end up earning as much as kids from stable homes with two parents. So he basically is saying, all of these kids at Yale, they say, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper. Why do I need a piece of paper to validate my relationship with someone? So they would say that, they would pay lip service to that because it confers status, like a worldly kind of veneer on these students who are saying this. And yet, when he would talk to the students about their plans, they all plan to get married. And he talks about how, for example, a lot of upper class people, upper crust people, are married. They are in marriage relationships, and that's how they raise their kids. And they kind of adhere to a lot of these traditional values. But they say for other people, I don't really care what you do. Do what you want to do. You don't have to do what I'm doing. And so as a result, these ideas from the upper class end up sifting through society. It trickles down into the lower classes. And now we have the lower classes showing what happens on the wrong end of things when they try out those things. When they try, I forget what the word is, but poly something. So relationships with more than two people, not monogamous relationships, polyamorous relationships. A lot of the students would say, yeah, I'm into polyamory. But when you look at single motherhood rates in the lower classes, those families struggle, and the family system is destroyed by that kind of behavior. So what he's saying is a lot of times poor people actually suffer the consequences of really bad choices, whereas rich people can get away with them. They have enough money to survive being a single mother, or to survive taking drugs. Drug legalization was another one, where it's rich people can get away with taking drugs. They can get a nanny for their kids. But the kids of poor people, like Rob, the guy who wrote this book, suffer. And then he ends up in 8 foster homes before he's 8 years old, and has problems with attachment and emotions and stuff like that. So yeah, he's saying you can see in the lower classes that these are bad ideas. And so they are paying the price, whereas rich people get away with it okay because they have enough money to pay their way, basically. So yeah, it was really interesting. I'd never heard the idea put that way before. And his personal story is what takes up probably 85% of the book. Just talking about his upbringing, the things that he experienced, the friends that he grew up with, and what happened to them. But it's also not just oh yeah, this is what I saw on campus, or this is what happened to my friends. It's really well researched. Like, he cites studies and all kinds of like research. It was really interesting. I thought it was really well researched. What would you expect from a Yale graduate, but for it to be well researched? And yeah, just some of the stuff he experienced was crazy. Like, people telling him that his place of privilege, from his place of privilege, of course he doesn't understand, you know, the harm that this whatever is causing. He's like, that's so ironic because you are literally a millionaire for doing nothing. And I came from $0. I am not paying my way through Yale, you know? So he's like, what? He doesn't even say what privilege, but he's just like, that's kind of ironic, you know? So yeah, interesting. And he is a person of color. He's half Korean, half Hispanic. So it was like, I don't know. It just didn't make sense. But not that you can't be racist and also a person of color. Like, those two things aren't actually mutually exclusive, but that just always makes me laugh a little bit. So anyways, his perspective was really interesting, and I don't remember where I first heard of him, but I think I mainly wanted to read this because it was a memoir of a kid from foster care who actually survived. It was really touching how he talked about reading all of these memoirs. Like, he didn't learn to read until he was in second grade. But he said reading became an escape and an inspiration for him. He loved reading memoirs of people who lived through really, really tough lives. And he said, yeah, he just got so much out of those memoirs. And so he was like, I really wanted to write a memoir of a poor kid who actually survives and thrives outside of that, who finds his way out of the emotional trauma that he's experienced. Because he's like, fiction, I mean, that's a trope all over fiction, you know, Dickens, you know, there's like tons of like fictional orphans who rise above their circumstances, but like, how many memoirs, like real life stories, are there of orphans who rise above their circumstances and do so well? So I'm really happy that he's done so well for himself, whether you agree with his, you know, thoughts or not. I don't know how you can argue with somebody who experienced all those things. He was an addict. His mom was an addict. He lived through several he lived through divorces and like all kinds of instability in his life. And he's like, that's not good for a kid. It's actually awful for kids. And there is data on it. You can't argue with me about this. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't try. You have come armed. So yeah, it was really, really good. And I'll just show you the cover again. Troubled, a memoir of foster care, family, and social class. And what was I going to say? I don't remember. It was really good though. I definitely recommend it. This is my favorite, I think, of the month. Yeah. Maybe going to be one of my favorites of the year. It's really too early to tell because it's only March, but I loved this. I definitely want to buy it. Super, super good. I'm going to want to reread this one. I want to have it in our home so I can hand it to a kid who might be in Rob's place. Just wanting to hear a positive story of a kid who's been through really rough stuff like they have. I would definitely want to have it for that reason. Okay, moving on. I know there was something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember now what it was. Colleen Coble's What We Hide. This is my next thing. This is a Christian. It doesn't actually say it's Christian, but the characters are Christian, so I think you could say it's safely Christian. Romantic suspense. And I found myself really enjoying some romantic suspense, specifically Mary Stuart romantic suspense. And so I thought, oh, maybe I would enjoy this. And unfortunately, it's just not that well written. I found out about her through my work. I've hauled a couple of her books because they just sounded fun. Like the premise sounds really fun of this one. It's it's about, I read the premise so long ago I can't even explain it anymore. But basically, there's been some artifacts that have been stolen from the college where the main character works, and her husband, who she is separated from and has just filed divorce from, is like the only person that she can kind of ask to help her solve the mystery somehow. I don't know. I'm describing it awfully. I should have looked up a premise. But basically, I felt like the characters kind of feel like, you know, when an actor doesn't have any empathy and they can't actually portray the emotions of the characters that they are acting as. Like, you like watch somebody's acting and you're like, I don't get that emotion from you. I don't think you know what that emotion really feels like. That's how I felt about these characters. Like, I literally DNF'd it at 7% because it was so unrealistic. I'm sorry if you like her. I am so sorry. If you like her, I'm so glad. Like I said, I thought the premise sounded really interesting. But yeah, the main guy, he was like a drug. The main guy, love interest, who is the estranged husband, was like a drug addict and didn't talk to his wife for 2 years and like all these things. And then he was just expecting to like pop back into her life and for her to be like so glad to see him, even though she just served him divorce papers. And he was like, I think I can just explain it and she's gonna love me again. I'm just like, no. And then he like planned this whole vacation around like these haunts that they used to go to together when they were married. And he's like, oh yeah, I just thought it'd be a nice little vacation for myself. Hopefully she'll join me for some of these little activities. And then when she doesn't, he realizes this was a terrible idea. Why did I plan to go to all of our old favorite spots? This is depressing. I'm like, yeah, why would you do that? That's a terrible plan. Just like, no like character depth that's like believable, unfortunately. So yeah, I DNF'd that real fast. Yeah, that's it for that, unfortunately. What We Hide by Colleen Coble. Okay, and then I also finished And Then We Were Five by Elizabeth Enright, which I ordered a copy from the library, and then I saw this in my pile of books, and I was like, wait, I own this now. I have this book. Dia sent it to me. I think it was for Christmas. And I'm so happy. This is my favorite of the Melindy Quartet, which is a series of children's classics about the Melindy family. So the first book was just featured in Tiffany's from Beautiful Minutia's video about middle grade classics that everyone should read. She mentioned the first book, The Saturdays, which is when the Melindys still live in New York, and they kind of pool their allowances and allow each other to go do something really special and fun with the allowances. And so those Saturdays in New York are just really precious, and I'm just really struck all the time when I'm reading these how different childhood was back then. I mean, obviously, this is a very nostalgic, idealized picture of childhood and just life in general. Not that sad things don't happen, but everybody's kind of on the same page, if you know what I mean. And today, nothing like this would happen. There would just never be, for example, in this book, I don't know how old is he, 8? Like out fishing on his own by himself in a river every day. Nobody would do that today. You would not send an 8-year-old out to go fishing by himself every day. It's crazy. It's crazy. And there's just a lot of other like children not being parented moments. Yeah. Like the whole family of the 4 Melindys children staying at home alone. There's like a handyman around who stays in like a separate house on the property. It's like, really now? That would definitely get CBS called on you. But yeah, fun still, despite those things. Honestly, you don't really think about that when you're reading this because it's so perfect. And I don't think that some of those things, it's like, yeah, I think today's parents are probably helicopter parents and we worry too much. We allow anxiety to steal the fun out of a child's life. Sometimes they do have to learn things on their own by experimenting. And so these kids are a delight because they have a lot of independent playtime. So anyways, all of that had nothing to do with the book. This book is book 3. They now live in the country. The second book, The 4-Story Mistake, which is what their house is called, is the first book that is set in the countryside. Also a delight. This one's my favorite because it has one of my favorite tropes, and I won't spoil what that is. But we do meet a couple of new child characters in here, and it's wonderful. So let me see if I can like find an example. The humor between the siblings is so wonderful. There's one character, Rush, the oldest boy. He just he's pretty ruthless at times, as you know, a lot of boys are as they grow up. There's a lot of humor about those kinds of things involved with Rush, the oldest boy. This is about a summer. It's almost entirely over the course of a summer, and it talks about how wonderful summer is. And it's very it's like the Anne series, the Anne of Green Gables series, where there's a lot of nature writing. There is a lot of nature writing in here, but it doesn't go on and on and on, you know. It's like sprinkled throughout. There's like a page or two here and there of the beautiful nature writing. But it's like very active in the sense like, yes, you can tell it's summer because a big scene in this book is where the two girls of the family, who are like, I don't know, 13 and 10 or something, they decide they're going to can all of the veggies from the garden and then some fruit as well. And so you're like, of course it's summer because everything has become ripe, you know. So a lot of the summeriness and the natureiness is very active. It's not just describing. It's like, we're living in the summer. We're canning all of the things from our garden, that kind of thing. So very I think I read these as kids and loved them, and I did not have a long attention span as a kid. I did like reading, but I didn't have a long attention span. But I loved these and just read them over and over and over again. So they definitely held my attention as a kid. Yeah. There's like a lot of games that they play. My buddy read this with Tiffany and Claire, her daughter. And so maybe we'll play some of the games that they play in here. So many just fun games that children play, you know, but like imaginative, truly imaginative. All the kids in this book are truly very intelligent and imaginative kids. And so it's a delight to read about them because they, you know, being around happy children, there are few things better in life than being around happy children having a good time, you know, and that's them. Not that they don't have bad times, but we just don't linger over the bad times. It's like you're getting all the good times with kids, you know, reading this book. And it's lovely. Okay, I think that I probably shouldn't go on too much longer. But like, for example, there's one section that's narrated. I think all the kids have their own chapters narrated at times. One of the kids, the youngest boy, the one who goes fishing all day, every day in the summer, he's also like really into moths this summer. And so the whole family has to put up with him, you know, finding caterpillars and keeping them in containers all over the house. And then somehow they break out of the containers and you find one, you know, in the closet or on the kitchen ceiling, and it's now in a cocoon. And he's like, no, don't touch it until the butterfly or the moth or whatever comes out of the cocoon. That kind of fun stuff happens. And so there's a whole chapter about him, you know, in this special world of moths that he's discovered on his own. And it's truly like, it just makes you feel the wonder that he feels about moths. And I'm like, I never have felt wonder about moths before until I read this. You know, I never would have noticed. And he didn't notice either until one day he was like, wow, the splendor of moths. That's all I can think about. It's his obsession right now. And she just really invites you into them as people and their interests, and it makes you interested because it's funny and it's insightful, you know, it's really very in tune with nature. So yeah, so many fun things. Definitely it's fun seeing the differences between this period. When was this written? Like the 30s? I don't know. It's an American classic. Highly recommend, though. I'm so glad I reread this from Real Grey March. I'm in such a rereading mood lately. I'm just enjoying rereading so much. It's just so comforting and relaxing. So, finally, the last thing that I have finished so far, The Water Horse by Dick Kingsmith. I think that's his name. Yes, Dick Kingsmith, which was recommended by Kate Howe. Thank you, Kate. I loved this. I read it in one sitting. It's very short. It's like 115 pages, something like that. And it was so good. It was so good. So it's about a girl who, I mean, you might have seen the cover. There's a water horse on it. There's also a movie. And I remember my mom rented this movie when I was a kid, and I don't think I was interested in the actual movie. However, the book is so wonderful. I need to see if there's more books by this author because, again, with the nature writing, it just feels it feels like realistic. I feel like that's maybe not quite the right word to use for these kind of books because they are idealized for sure. But there's just enough trouble that feels like real life trouble that you're like, it feels realistic. It's about a water horse. It's not actually realism, but it feels like if you found a water horse, these are the kind of problems you would encounter. So this little girl finds a fish egg on the beach when her family is beachcombing after a storm. And she brings it home and puts it in her bathtub and it hatches. And it's this little water horse thing. And he describes the horse as like different animals put together. And so you can really picture it really well, even without illustrations. But I'm pretty sure there are illustrations here and there. And then it's basically about how to take care of the water horse without telling anybody outside the family, because they don't want it to be shot or taken in captive into a zoo or something. They want him to be able to live free, but they still want to know about him themselves. They want to be around him, to observe him. They live in Scotland, and so there's a lot of talk about lochs. And I don't think Loch Ness Monster is exactly used, but they talk about monsters in lochs. And yeah, it was a delight. I loved this. I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for a middle grade March read classic. And I loved it so much. I'm definitely going to check out more by this author. Thank you, Kate, for recommending this. Yeah, I think that's all. I think that's everything. Okay, I'm gonna go. Oh, I forgot. There was actually pictures from the movie in this, which I feel like the movie isn't about the little girl. It's more about her younger brother. Like, her younger brother is a character in the book, but he's more of like a stereotype of a younger brother than a real character. The little girl has a lot more going on character-wise than the younger brother. So I don't know why it's about a little boy. I don't know why the movie's about a little boy. I feel like it should be about the little girl. But anyways, that's just my opinion. I haven't seen the movie. So that's it. I'll see you again a little later this month, probably next weekend. Hey there, guys. It is now my obligatory check of the date and time. It's Thursday, March 27th at 3:10 p.m. And let's talk about the rest of my March wrap up and my April TBR. Very excited. Okay, so I finally finished The Troublemaker by Mark L. Clifford. This is a sort of biography. It reads almost more like a memoir in places, but it's not. It's not written by the subject. It's written by somebody else. So it's, I guess, technically a biography of the famous businessman, maybe infamous businessman, Jimmy Lai from China. He's been a huge advocate of democracy in China. He's been compared to Alexei Navalny, which is why I picked it up. And I also thought the cover was really awesome. Cover by, and who else has he been compared to? There was somebody else that was, anyways, he was a huge sort of
not instigator, but he was able to hop on the trends of fast fashion, and he was sort of at the head of the trends a lot of times. He's owned several businesses. He owned almost kind of like not a muckraker journal, but kind of like the William Randall Hearst style of journalism. Lots of gore and sex and, anything to hold the attention of the people. That kind of a newspaper. And it just was extremely popular. I think it was called Next. And he named one of his businesses Apple, which was really funny because he ripped stuff off a lot of times. This is what he did. He would frequently go into stores in like America, check out what fashions were there, rip the tags out, and use them for his own things, So, some definitely shady practices in the business world, but kind of everything goes in China where he was operating. And so he got away with a lot. One thing I really loved about this book is I feel like I understood China a lot better by listening to this. Like the different cities, the different flavors of the different cities that I was unaware of. So like, for example, Bonhoeffer was the other guy that this man has been compared to. So, the reason why I made this comparison to Bonhoeffer, sorry, this is like jumping back. I'm looking at my notes. The reason why I maybe compared him to Alexei Navalny and Bonhoeffer is because he was such an advocate for freedom in China that he was arrested, and he is now, as far as I know, still in prison. And he's like an old man now. And he's basically like, I'm going to stay mentally free, even though I've been imprisoned for my work on behalf of freedom. Because he's a businessman, he was a huge fan of like freedom, and so he wanted freedom for everybody. And he was very generous with his money towards that, and very supportive of democracy, pro-democracy movements in China. And so because of that, the Chinese Communist Party is persecuting him, imprisoning him, bringing charges against him, even though he hasn't done anything that was like against the law in China, like that wouldn't be against the law, that we would charge him for, I would say, maybe in America. He hasn't committed any crimes that like anybody outside of the Communist Party would be charging him for. At least not morally. I mean, there were some business practices that I was like, okay, dude. But yeah, regardless, I compared him to Bonhoeffer and Navalny because he was fully capable of escaping China and escaping punishment, and he didn't. He said, because most of the people that I know who are in this movement with me cannot escape, I choose not to. And so that's why he's in prison, is basically because he chose to be. He was like, I'm not going to leave. Even though I have the capability. He said he decided long ago that physical survival could not be the ultimate aim, because if it is, you don't start such a struggle in the first place. I mean, that's how like oppressed Christians really feel in different countries as well. Freedom is not the aim. If freedom is your only goal, physical freedom, then you're probably not going to be going against the government and advocating rebellion and being a rebel because that will get you killed. And he's not afraid of that. He's like, I'm not afraid of risking my body for the sake of this movement of democracy. You can't fear death more than losing your soul, or in the case of political dissidents, your freedom. There is one thing that does depend on you, which is to remain a free person until the last day of your life. So free mentally. So that's what his goal is in prison. He's actually become a Catholic after marrying a Catholic woman. He is converted to Catholicism, and he basically spends his time in prison drawing pictures of Jesus, which I think is really sweet. He's like, yeah, I'm going to become a great artist. Everything that he does, he just does it full-heartedly. He just does it so zealously. That's the kind of person he is. And Yeah, that's awesome. It's really fun and interesting following him around in a book. This isn't like probably the best. I don't know. It was an interesting book, but I had some issues with it. But still, I feel like his personality still came through despite my issues sort of with the presentation. It felt a bit choppy. This was not like of the same quality as the Alexei Navalny memoir, in my opinion. But of course, Alexei Navalny was a journalist. He was his own journalist and was able to write his own memoir. Jamie Lai is in prison. He couldn't write his own memoir. So we have this other guy writing it instead. I feel like if Jimmy Lai had written this, it probably would have been a 5-star book. It would have been so entertaining. And I wish that we had that book. Maybe we do. I need to research him more and see if he's actually... But regardless, he definitely is a journalist and did write stuff. Worked really hard at that. So maybe I can... I don't know, look, but I don't know if it's in Chinese. He does speak English though, but anyways... He also quotes Alexei Navalny, which gives him big points in my book. And he also states that he's really fighting for the future of China. He wants people to be free and he wants them to have freedom because he grew up extremely, extremely poor. And because he moved, was it to Shanghai? Hong Kong. Hong Kong. He moves to Hong Kong and he loves it in Hong Kong because there's more freedom. There's more like business freedom. And so he was able to like get more money. He was able to work and make money and save money and become his own businessman because he lived in Hong Kong, and he wouldn't have had that opportunity elsewhere in China because elsewhere in China, it was not free enough for that. So he really talks about Hong Kong and China as like really separate places, almost like they sound like different countries, the way he describes them, which is really interesting to me. I'd never heard them described that way. So I felt like I was getting a feel for the different cities in China, like the major ones. I didn't know that Hong Kong was a British colonial city. I had heard that about... There's another one. Was it Shanghai? I think Shanghai is the other one that I heard was a British colonial city because Jews fled there during World War II to escape the Nazis. But I didn't know that about Hong Kong. So excuse me if I'm getting some of the details wrong. I didn't actually like go and research this stuff after reading this. I literally just finished it last night, finally. I also read most of it last month and then it had to go back to the library and I had to finish it like last night. So anyways, I haven't done a lot of side research on it yet, but this was fascinating. Like, I feel like I learned so much. What else? Yeah. So Hong Kong and Taiwan have sort of... I feel like I finally understand all the discussion about Taiwan in like politics news, like protecting Taiwan's independence and stuff like that. Like, I was always like, I don't even know what that's all about. And it's because Taiwan is similar to Hong Kong in that they want the freedom of the press, to some degree at least, freedom of business, capitalist business. So yeah, basically people want the freedom to be able to make their own money and own things as a result and buy things. They want free trade. There we go. That's what we're looking for. I buy things and I sell things. What movie is that from? I can't remember. That's from a movie that Kept loves. I buy things and I sell things. He's a thief and he's explaining what he does. He says, I buy things and I sell things. Anyways, or is it a book? I don't know. Anyways, maybe it is a book. Maybe it's George from Song of Linus. Anyways, I also didn't know that Chinese has really similar grammar to English. That was fascinating to me. If I ever actually learn Korean and Spanish and Russian, I would love to work on Chinese. There's so many Chinese artists that I've been finding that I'm like, dang, I love you. I love your music. I love your language. And I love your food is like my first love from China. I really love Chinese food. And thankfully I live in California. We have great Chinese food here. Anyways, moving on. I think that's probably, it gave me a feel, I think I was saying this earlier, how business works in China a little bit better. if you live on soy sauce and rice, which is what a lot of people were living on when he was a kid, that's what he was living on, soy sauce and rice, making 35 cents a day feels incredible because you can buy meat sometimes, you can afford to eat meat. To us in the West, that just seems so unfair and seems like terrible. That sounds terrible to us in the West because we would never have to live on soy sauce and rice here. But for them, making 35 cents a day was actually extremely freeing and wonderful. And he fell in love with it for that reason. So it really gave me a different perspective on business. From our perspective in the West, we're like, that seems so shady. 35 cents a day, that's super shady. But for him, it was like life-changing. Like, wow, I can actually afford to buy meat for myself, So, yeah. It still gives people an opportunity to earn a better life in other countries, even though to us it seems like a pittance in pay. And the way he talks like about being a businessman was like magical. It gave me very Ayn Rand vibes. It was like exciting, even though like I have so many problems with things that he did. Like I hate fast fashion. I think it's terrible for the whole world. I think trying to buy a brand new wardrobe of cheap clothes every year that you only buy once and then hand off, or they fall apart in the wash, you can't even wash them because they're such terrible quality. I hate that. That's something that he did though, so I don't like agree with everything that he did, and I definitely wouldn't hold him up as a great example in a lot of ways, but in his old age he's finishing well. And I hope that he succeeds. I hope that China does become more free. Sensationalist newspaper. That's the word I was looking for earlier. That's it for that book. Next, we have Attack on Titan, Volume 16. This is fine. This was fine. There were some bombshells dropped in here. I'm still not sure if they were actual real bombshells or if they're like fake bombshells, which has happened. So we'll have to see. I have sort of mixed feelings about this one. It all takes place in like pretty much one location, and it wasn't very exciting to me. I'm used to being like turned on my head with these volumes, which is why I've loved them so much. I feel like there's only been one other volume where I was like, really? But this one was kind of like, oh, okay, really? I don't know. It was kind of weird. This one was a weird volume. Hopefully they'll keep improving this volume. I still liked it, but it's somewhere between like 2 and 3 star level of like, it was okay to I liked it, somewhere in between there. Hopefully, since they're so short, they only take me usually a couple days to finish. I will keep pressing on because I'm desperate to find out more about this. I hope that there are answers. I heard from somewhere that the series doesn't end in giving you answers, which is a little bit depressing. I'm hoping that there actually are answers because I'm obsessed and I love it. I don't want this to be a Lost situation. Lost made me kind of angry because it didn't answer any of your questions. Okay, that's it for the things I finished. I'm really close to finishing several other things. So let's talk about those and my April TBR. I got The Apothecary Diaries Volume 15! 13, not 15. Was this 15? Is that why I said? No, this is 15. I don't know why I said 15. It's 13! I think this is the last volume, or at least it's definitely the most recently published because I've been waiting for it for like 4 or 5 months. I just love these covers. And I'm super excited to pick this up. Although I've learned it's not a bedtime read anymore because there's been another subplot added and it's no longer bedtime reading. It's too exciting. So, loving this. I've described it so many times. I won't continue. I have started Hardboiled Wonderland in the End of the World by Haruki Murakami, which is a buddy read I'm doing with Michi. I should probably announce this. I don't know. Are we going to have a live show? I don't know if we're going to have a live show or not, but I'm buddy reading this with Michi from Heart of Michi, and I really am enjoying it so far. I'm only 2.5 chapters in though, so I just like the way he thinks. The way he thinks is exciting. There's so many ideas crammed into every single sentence. It's exciting for an idea reader. I'm an idea reader. I really am fascinated, which is why I like sci-fi. So he's just cramming everything full of ideas, and I love it. I don't love, however, though, he applies that same way of thinking to the female body, and that's always awkward. I don't love that. The way he thinks about the female body, I don't love. But I also heard that he might be on the spectrum, so maybe that would explain sort of his kind of lingering obsession. I don't know how to describe it. But regardless, I am really enjoying this. The first chapter is like really in-depth thoughts about an elevator ride, which sounds so boring, right? But it was so interesting. The way he describes it is so interesting. I know I rated Q-Teen84 50% out of 100 because of the writing about the female body, but the other 50% was 100% love. So we'll see how this one goes. Hopefully it's a little less cringy. We'll see. Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is book 2. It's actually a duology. It's a romantasy duology with a very Russian Revolution-like setting, post-revolution. And I really enjoyed the first book so much, and I just wish that they weren't YA. If this was adult romance, I would be recommending it all the way because I really enjoy it. Think of it as adult romance. If you pick it up, it's not young adult. Don't hand this to a teen. But I really enjoy it. I don't always enjoy romantic writing, but sometimes I love romantic writing, like writing about a romantic relationship. And sometimes this can be a little bit long-winded in places where I don't care about. But I think that she has talent. I think Kristen Ciccarelli really does have talent for saying things in a way that's like, oh, you feel it. I'm really into it. I'm really into the relationship. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I'll let you know how it goes. Korean stories for language learners. I'm still working on this because hoping to have it finished by the time Tiffany comes to visit me so I can send it home to her and Claire. I'm on like story 31 out of 40 or something, but I'm still only halfway because the stories in the second half of the book are way longer. But I am making a lot of progress. I'm now listening to every story and writing down words that I hear as I'm listening before I even look at it or read it. And then I go look and read it through it, and I check the definitions of words. So I'm absorbing it a little differently than I was. And I think I'm really trying to develop my ear because I found my reading, along with the dictionary, if I have enough time, I can decipher most things. And I'm pretty good at speaking now. I've gotten a lot better. 할 수 있어요, 지금. 하지만, however, my listening, 듣고 있는 거 어려워요. 계속 어려워요. It's still really hard for me to listen in Korean. Yikes! So, and I'm trying to like chat with people in Korean, so I really need to work on my listening. So that's why I'm listening to stories first. Because if you learn words first by hearing them and hearing them and hearing them, and then you look and see them, it sticks better in your head for when you hear it. I've learned tons of words just by looking at them and reading. And then I don't recognize them when I hear them because it's important to get that audio recognition. However, there's also plenty of times where I've learned words and I've recognized them while I'm listening. So it just takes a lot of practice and a lot of inundation. Next, I still have the Gabriel Hounds on my TBR. I don't know. It's just been so busy. I haven't been able to really get into it. I've started it, but it's paused. I'm just dying to get to it, honestly. But whenever I have free time, I'm picking up other things. I don't know why. I just am. Speaking of which, I'm rereading Patriot by Alexie Navalny. I'm actually just listening to the audiobook right now because it's my relaxing read when I can't read with my eyes. Because I really want to do a video review of it, or at least a reaction. I don't know. I realized as I was filming a reaction sort of video to my notes that I didn't understand it well enough to really react to it because it's been like 5 months since I read it. So I'm going back and re-listening to it so that I can continue on filming that reaction video. I would love to do like reviews for my favorite books of the year. That would be a goal of mine that I didn't mention in my TBR video. Anthem by Neil Stephenson. I am like not quite 2/3. I'm getting close to 2/3 done with this, and I'm loving this. This is for a read along that I'm doing currently, and our next live show will be, I think, on Tiffany's channel is our finale wrap up live. I'm enjoying this so much. There's just so many. It's like Haruki Murakami. There's so many ideas packed into it, and it's like a playground. You know, when you're reading a book like this, it's just so packed with ideas. It's like, wow, I don't know what to look at first. I don't know what to think about first and next. And I'm just so excited reading it. I just love it. I'm having the best time with Anthem. How do you even describe it? I'll describe it once I finish it. Flower Fairies of the Spring, which I've only got like 3 poems left in this, but reading without an audiobook, even like really simple reading, does amp me up at night. So I have to be careful. So I read a lot of this last night and I was like, oh, I'm going to finish it so I can film it tomorrow. And then I had to stop and I just haven't had a chance. This is really fun though. I'll have to talk about this next month. I'm also reading Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is The Promise. This takes place after the TV show, which I didn't realize when I picked it up. It's in full color, which is really fun. Yeah, I'm just remembering why I love this. I mean, the dialogue isn't very spectacular, but it's so silly and fun and just heartwarming, and I love the characters, and I'm enjoying it so much. I really enjoy the world. Yeah, it's very whimsical to me. So, continuing on, I'm reading Lower Olympus, which was originally a webtoon by Rachel Smythe, because my friend Sarah recommended it. It's a romance. See, I just realized I've had my glasses on this whole time. I should have taken them off. Sorry. Oh well. This is kind of sleazy feeling, actually, so I don't know who I would recommend it to, and I doubt that I will continue it, not because I'm not invested. I'm super invested, but it's like very adult feeling. It has like the feeling of a nightclub, which I've never been to a nightclub and I don't really want to go, and I don't really support that atmosphere. I don't support that vibe. However, the art is just beautiful. I really love the art, and I have been filling up my notebook with art from Lower Olympus, so we'll see what my eventual review is like. Maybe my opinion will change, but probably not. I also have The 21 Balloons by William Pennedubois. I wanted to read this. I just had a hankering to reread this for middle grade March. I've been having the best middle grade March. I've been having the best time with middle grade March. So I don't know if I will be able to reread this now. I've also been having the best time rereading and with middle grade. So it's been a great month for middle grade. We'll see if I can get to this. I don't know, before the end of the month. Okay. Other things on my April TBR. I am going to finish up Power Through Prayer by Ian Bounds. Loving. Can't wait to talk about that. I've got an essay on the development of Christian doctrine by Cardinal Newman, which is a book for Faith's Theology Book Club Discord. Excited that, it's only an essay. That's going to be short. I've got Ethan Frome on here. Why do I have Ethan Frome on here? Somebody must have recommended it. Did Tiffany recommend it? Maybe. I have That Chinese Book with Stephanie? Question mark. What the heck is that? I think I know what book it is, but I can't remember the title. It was probably on my last month's TBR too. I need to Vox you, Stephanie. Finish Gene Wolfe so I can continue reading his books. It's been on my long list to read more books by Gene Wolfe for a long time, but I started a reread of The Book of the New Sun like a million years ago with Noah, and I never finished it. So I want to finish that reread first and then move on, because I really want to check out more Gene Wolfe. I think that's his masterpiece, The Book of the New Sun, but I want to read more. Restart Demons maybe next month. That seems ambitious. I don't know about starting Demons at least until I've finished Anthem, but I am more in the mood for classics lately. I'm kind of in the mood for a chunky classic, especially by an author that I know I love, and I know that I like Demons too, is the thing. I only quit because I lost momentum and was really stressed at the time, but I would really like to continue that. Part of the problem with doing a read along in live shows is you have to stop at a certain point. You have to stop your momentum and wait for everybody to wait for the live show. And that's hard. If I'm enjoying something and then I have to go back 2 weeks later and pick it up again, it's hard. It's like an artificial stop. So now that I don't have any artificial stops, I'm hoping I can finish Demons. Okay, I also have His Family by Ernest Poole, which is for Tiffany's Patreon book club. Very excited about that one. I already read like the opening couple pages when I was checking out her Patreon poll, and I think I'm gonna love this one. I think it's about a family in New York. That's all I know. That's all I remember. So I'm excited to check it out. Lord Jim or some other classic. I have it down here. I'm really in the mood for classics, like I was saying. But I think probably I want to finish the Mary Stuart book, which technically is a classic. It's classic romantic suspense. But I hesitate to not jump on my, I feel like reading a classic, because it's been a little while since I was like really hankering for a classic. So we'll see. That was a very wishy-washy TBR. I didn't have much. There was a lot of question marks. Okay, and looking at what I have out from Libby, we've got Reagan by Max Boot, his life and legend. This is a biography that I'm reading, and maybe I should talk about it now because I might DNF it. It's so negative. It's like very, I don't know. It just, have you ever heard of like The Choice? It's like a documentary that's about American elections, and it's so partisan I can't even watch it. Like there's some things that they're like so partisan that it's like, okay. He doesn't have anything good to say about Reagan. It's like, was there nothing good about the man? Why do so many people love him? Is it just because of his movie star good looks? That's what I'm getting from this. Everybody likes him because he's handsome, and that's it. He's charming, but that doesn't really come across in the book. So I don't know. I don't know whether to keep reading. It's not like I don't want to know negative things about him. Maybe this author is talking to like the really super fan Reaganites. I don't know. I'll probably DNF it. I am curious about Reagan though, so maybe I should continue it and then try and find a different biography that might balance it out. This one was just published in like 2024 or 2025, so the mood is very against Republican politicians right now. Yeah, there's a lot. I did learn a lot about him though, so I don't know. Working on Pimsleur Spanish, sort of, kind of, but I'm also listening and reading Twilight in Spanish, so I'm working on that more. I have The Woods at Midwinter by Susanna Clarke out. 13 more days. I need to get to this before it goes back. The Lion Women of Tehran, I'm at 30% in that one. This one is not bad at all. It's a historical fiction. I set in like, I want to see the 30s or 40s or 50s in Tehran. I guess it's hard when I'm on audiobook. I don't remember the details as well. I remember more like the character stories. That's what stands out to me. So this is okay, but I was flying along. Like the first night I read like 25% of it. And then there was a full-on sex scene, and I was trying to relax for bed. And I was like, okay, I'm awake now. So I feel like it's not a safe book to relax with. I've heard that reading fiction is supposed to be better for relaxing. So I've been trying to like listen to some fiction to relax. And this one was not good for that. So we'll see if I continue it. I also have Jesus and the Jewish Roots of Mary by Brant James Peter, which Faith recommended because it talks about why Catholics have so many beliefs about Mary that Protestants don't have. So I was curious about that. And so far, I'm not convinced. But it is interesting. Like, he talks about how Mary was like the new Eve, and so she also was made sinless. She was created sinless like Eve, and because she is the new Eve, it must mean she's the better Eve, which must mean she never sinned. That was like the reasoning. It was like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch. We know Jesus was sinless because it says so in the Bible, but we don't know that Mary was sinless. That was never said anywhere. So he's making these giant leaps, I feel like, but it is interesting to hear why. Anyways, what else? I'm also reading a book called Ultra 85. It's a sci-fi novel by Logic. This was recommended actually by the Korean teacher Hyunwoo-san on a live stream. He said Hail Mary and Ultra 85. He would recommend them. So I was like, oh, I want to read something that Hyunwoo-san loved. He's the founder of Talk to Me in Korean, which is the website that I use to learn Korean, like from grammar books and stuff like that, like to study, not just to inundate myself, but to actually study. So it's okay so far, but I'm only 5% in. I'm judging it really quickly, and I don't like the writing style at all. It doesn't feel like a traditional writer. It feels like, I don't know, an influencer trying to write a book. That's what it feels like. I think it's actually written by a rapper, so that would totally make sense. This guy was not a writer of books by nature. However, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it more of a shot because Hyunwoo seemed really enthusiastic. And that's it. That's all that I really, I think I have some things on Hoopla, but they're things I've already mentioned. They're just slow rereads that I'm doing to relax. I've been reading Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. I've got You Can Draw Manga Chibi Characters. I think I already talked about that. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me know what your favorite thing that you read in March was and what you're most excited about to read in April. And I will talk to you next month. Bye!